Okay then. Look, thank you. Last item. Thank you so much to our staff, all our staff who have waited here. And just to use, and I mentioned this at the joint IMSB and GB meeting, but this particular agenda item and the plan reminds me of Al Green and his song, "A Change is Going to Come." And there's two lines that on the first verse which reads, "It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change is going to come." So this year, 10 years in waiting. So Joe, to you, to all your team, please come up. There are some extra seats here, and get as many as the team up here, because this work has been a long time coming. And I know over the last few years, the team has been working solidly on all this through the consultation. So I tried to text Councillor Casey to ask her if she's willing to move this, and for Councillor Cooper to be second. I won't move this particular item, but Councillor Casey, I haven't had a reply. Can you verbally say yes?
Yep.
Okay, and I know that you won't be speaking to it, so Councillor Cooper as the seconder, I'll wait for everybody to have their kōrero and then she can close it. Kia ora. So, tēnā koutou katoa, thank you so much. And Joe, if you could introduce the team, not only those that are here physically, but also those online. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, the team that we have sitting here today, we've got Scott De Silva, Manager Regional Parks, Matt Ward, Team Leader Service and Asset Planning, and then to my right, Tristine McGuern, Regional Parks Advisor, who is one of the primary authors of the plan. So, and of course, behind us we have more of the team, including around us, three of the sponsors who have helped us right throughout the process: Mace Ward, Justine Haves, and Taryn Crew. So they're here today as well. Just also like to acknowledge that we have Friends of Regional Parks and other key stakeholders here as well. So really appreciate their support. Yeah. Shall I continue? Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, I think... Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. Sorry, you shouldn't have put me in charge of a clicker.
Here we go.
Let's try this way.
Yeah, okay.
Today, we bring to you the recommended Regional Parks Management Plan, seek your approval of this plan. In addition to that, which is the key recommendation, we ask that you receive the hearings panel report attached to this item and the recommendations from the hearings panel. And also note that the section within the plan pertaining to Lake Wainamu is actually owned by the QE2 National Trust, and as such requires Minister of Conservation sign-off before it will be final. And then finally we have a recommendation that the committee approve classification of 6 unclassified land parcels. So I'm not going to read everything on this slide, but it became quite clear through the submissions process that a lot of people submitted on matters that were actually out of scope of the management plan. So this slide is just to remind you of the scope of the management plan. The management plan sets a focus for the direction of the management of 28 regional parks for the next decade. It sets a long-term vision and values for the parks that are to be upheld, and also identifies some key focus areas for the next decade. In doing that, it provides a management framework and policies to guide management of all of the parks, and that's book 1. And then in book 2, there is a chapter for each regional park that goes through with management intentions specific to that park. And then there's a set of maps which help to identify location of key assets or features on the parks. I won't go through all the things that are out of scope, but as you can see from the list there, a number of these matters, we received a lot of submissions. We'll be passing that information on to the appropriate teams. So today marks the end of quite a long project, although not as long as some others I've heard today, but it has been going on right throughout the term of this political term. So the first 2 lines in the process steps we undertook with this committee leading to the publication of the draft plan for consultation last December. And then since then, we've been running the process along that bottom line there, consultation of the draft plan, to which we invited mana whenua as well as the public to input into that consultation. We presented to local boards and obtained input from local boards. Then the hearings panel formed and reviewed everything and then deliberated for 3 days. And we worked with the hearings panel to create the recommended plan that we present to you today. The review has followed the required statutory and internal processes. It is the primary legislations under the Reserves Act, the Local Government Act, and the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act. And of course, we've been involving local boards as per the agreed process for regional policy development. So we received a lot of submissions, which was fantastic to get such a range of views from so many different people who it really showed that it reflected the care and the attention and that people have for their regional parks, and how much they wanted us to look after the parks and to make sure the parks are resilient, and also that to make sure that the public can continue to enjoy them. So 4,684 submissions, and also most of the local boards participated in the review, and their feedback is in attachment E of this report, 17 local boards. The other attachments to the report, obviously the first attachment is the hearings panel report and recommendations. The attachment B is the Regional Parks Management Plan, recommended today for your approval. Attachment C contains a summary of the submissions that we received to the draft plan. And then attachment D, which is a good 200 pages, I think, presents in more detail submission points and then the hearings panel response to those points. Whether they were accepted, rejected, what changes, and the reason why. So there's quite a lot of detail in there. I've just got one slide to mention some of the key topics that came up during the submissions and where the final plan or the recommended plan lies in respect to those. I guess, just as a general comment, there aren't really any major shifts from the draft plan to the recommended plan, but there are many more specific, numerous comments, suggestions that were picked up by the hearings panel, and many smaller changes have been made. And overall, the submissions have positively improved the plan and also helped to ensure that the content is clearly understood and is much clearer. So one key topic that we received some 3,900 submissions on were people who opposed a proposed policy to investigate parks joining the Waitakere Golf Marine Park. So in response to those submissions, the hearings panel has deleted that policy to join the marine park and has strengthened neighbouring policies to make it quite clear that council will continue to collaborate with the Waitakere Golf Forum to protect the quality, the health of the Waitakere Golf in the way that we manage the regional parks. Another key topic that many submitted from various angles on was the plan's proposal to include mana whenua more in parks management. And as a result, the plan clarifies that co-governance is not provided for under the plan, and confirms that greater involvement by mana whenua, including co-management, is provided for in the plan, but no specific co-management or transfer proposals are in the plan. It's in general policy level. We received a lot of comments relating to the Waitakere Ranges and to the track closures, which has been a long-running matter for people who use the Waitakere Ranges. The key thing is that the final plan confirms that a key priority project following this plan will be to create a track network plan in consultation with park users in the community, and to look at the next steps for the tracks network. It also adds reference to some of the national Kauri dieback standards, which have now been published, which provides clarity for everyone around track standards, and also Council's Kauri monitoring survey from 2021. Quite a few submissions also were concerned about the draft plan's visitor management in sensitive areas. And as a result, quite a lot of work has been done to clarify that the sensitive areas are still focused on protection, whether they're high use or low use areas. So there's been quite a few changes in that area. Many people submitted on climate change, supported generally that the moves that the council was to do in relation to climate change, and farming from a range of views. So the final plan continues farming with a 10% methane reduction target and a review of farming against climate, visitor and financial impacts. Quite a few submitters' comments were received about the balance between recreation and conservation. And the plan confirms that protection of natural values is first priority, because without those natural values, the visitor experience will suffer. But there has been some clarifications that recreation and the ability to use the parks is very important, and there's been some strengthening of policies in that area. And then finally, but by no means least, regional stakeholders pointed out that we didn't mention them in the plan, and as a result, the hearings panel has directed that there be an appendix with a regional stakeholder list, which is great, to put that into the plan along with some policy for how council will work with stakeholders. 3 administrative matters in the report. I've already covered Lake Wainamu Reserve. The draft plan had mentioned some local parks, Ngaroto Lakes reserves. They've been removed from the final plan as they're still under Rodley Local Board control as local parks. So they're not part of this plan. And then in attachment F, we do recommend that 6 land parcels that are held under the Reserves Act be classified. They were missed off the list back in December 2021 when you received the rest of the parcels to be classified. They've been through mana whenua and local boards, however, and they do not require consultation, so we ask that they be classified. So that's really it. If subject to your approval, the plan would be publicised, and certainly communicate to everybody who's been involved to close the loop on so many people who've been interested in this plan. And then staff will also look into implementation planning and reporting, setting up a reporting process and gazetting those land parcels, and also continuing discussions with mana whenua to jointly prepare another section of the plan on the Hunua Falls Special Management Zone with those mana whenua moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to open up to Matthew, Scott and Justine if there's anything you wish to say.
Nothing further, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Nothing from me either, Mr. Chair. Through the Chair, just want to acknowledge that it's been a great process, I think. It's a big piece of work that's taken us a long time to do, or the team here, and I think Joe and Christine and Matt have done the lion's share of it, but great engagement from the Regional Parks team and the stakeholders as well, so it's been a privilege to be involved in it.
Thank you so much. Look, there's no partai online. I'm going to ask those that are here physically if they've got any partai. Councillor Watson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. No, it's just really just a clarification in light of the commentary in terms of Table 2, themes and matters addressed in the hearings panel's report. And it says here, and I'm just quoting it, in response to submissions on co-governance and co-management, noted that co-governance is under active consideration, but sits outside the plan, and that co-management is under active consideration as council policy reflected in the plan, and I can see that in the plan. Just in respect to the first statement, though, who's considering the co-governance? Who are the people that, or what part of council is actively considering that, and what form is that taking in relation to the regional parks?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that section, Table 2 of the covering report is taken from the hearings panel report in attachment A.
Yeah.
So we were reflecting their words there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't know who's involved in that and what form it's taking in relation to the regional parks?
No, I'm...
Councillor Watson, I was just going to say that Councillor Cooper was the chair of the hearings panel.
Yeah.
Did you want any comment from her? If not,
It answers it. It answers it for you if you want me to, but if you don't, that's fine.
yeah.
Given that it wasn't from the staff.
Yep. Okay.
Well, it's in the report.
Yeah.
That's down black and white. So I'll follow that through, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Watson. Any partai? No? Okay then. Look, I thank you. Before you step back and we get into our whakaaro, our discussion, that very short PowerPoint doesn't indicate the amount of work that you have done. I just want to say thank you so much. I hope you didn't get raked over the coals when you forgot our community that have been involved in regional parks, but at least now they're mentioned in there. So look, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm going to then open it up for our debate and whakaaro. So to you all, tēnā rā koutou katoa, kia ora nā. So I'm just going to open it up, and so that everybody knows, when I open it up, because Councillor Casey won't be able to close the debate, I'm going to leave Councillor Cooper to say what she needs to say if there's no further people who wish to speak. So I've got Matua Wilcox and Councillor Coombe, and at the moment that's the only two. There's nothing online, and then I'll leave it to Councillor Cooper to close. Kia ora.
Kia ora whānau. I'd just like to, from my point of view as being on the panel, just to thank Jo and her team, e mihi ana kia koutou, for your work and how hard it was to do this kaupapa. And also like to thank Commissioners Hill and Whetu, and of course Councillors Christine Fletcher and Chair Linda Cooper. This was a big kaupapa, but the kaupapa really was about the regional parks and how we go forward. And I spent my summers going to all 28 of them, going to all 28 of them. And I just jotted down a few things from my notes to kind of understand the feeling. And for everyone it's different. But from Duda, I got the smell of the karaka. From Wenderholm, I saw the light that freckled through the Pohutakawa. And from Te Muri, it was like a step back in time, because the tide determines when and where you can go to Te Muri. And finally, Awhitu, it was the camp spells and the korero that was going around in the campground that was drifting in the afternoon. And it really brought home to me how much Aucklanders enjoy and need our regional parks, and how much council needs to support that work. And not only that, Waitakere looks after 70% of the water that comes into Auckland through our regional parks. And so it's really important that they're not only seen as the lungs of Auckland and the places where people play, but they're also the places that give sustenance to the city. So I'd just like to say thank you to all of those who took part in the kaupapa, and e mihi ana ki a koutou katoa. Kia ora mai tātou.
Tēnā koe tēnā wetira. Councillor Coombe.
Thank you. In speaking in support, I'd like to add my thanks to the team who've worked very hard on this, and to the panel members. That was a beautiful whakaro. Thank you, Member Wilcoxon, for your contribution to the panel, and Councillor Cooper. And I should know who the other panel members were. So, Councillor Fletcher. So I really do appreciate the considerable work that has been put into this. And I'm sorry that your workload was increased even more because of the incorrect information that was spread around Policy 55, Policy 55 in terms of the integrated management. And I'm really glad that the report and the covering agenda item clarifies that it was incorrect information, and in David Hill's covering note, he does say that it was clear that the thinking behind the proposed Policy 45 was driven by the self-evident fact, as acknowledged by many submitters, that the land-sea interface is an artificial, natural and cultural divide that needs to be managed in an integrated way. And that was what it was always about, that integrated management, because we know sedimentation into the Hauraki Gulf is a really big issue. And we have lots of local parks that are in the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park. Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Lee back in the day voted for Browns Island to be included in the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park. So there was a precedent for it, and it was an investigation of how we can better integrate our management with land and sea. So I'm glad that as councillor and as co-chair of the Hauraki Gulf Forum, that there is a recommendation and a policy that acknowledges that need for that integration. So we're happy in terms of where this has landed. And I do want to also acknowledge all of the submitters and all of those who are passionate about the regional parks, and that of course has come through in many of those submissions. And I'm really glad that Alex Rogers, the Executive Director of the Hauraki Gulf Forum, was able to speak at the Friends of Regional Parks AGM. Kia ora, Bronwyn. Nice to see you here. And I hope that that really clarified to the Friends of Regional Parks around the intent of the proposal. It was just, it was put in there in a draft, and that's the whole idea of having a draft for consultation. So thank you for that opportunity to come to your AGM and to be able to clarify that with your members, because it was very unfortunate how that proposal got caught up in a much larger proxy campaign against co-governance and against Three Waters and all sorts of different agendas that people had, because it was a very, very simple recommendation and need to meet that in terms of the integrated management. between our regional parks and the marine environment. So, e mihi ana ki a koutou, thank you for all of the considerable work. It is very much appreciated, and for all those who submitted and the team that have waded through it all and come with the recommendations today, which I fully support. Kia ora.
Ka pai. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it was a couple of terms of council back when someone in the field related to surveying did a survey of Aucklanders in terms of what they valued most in Auckland in respect of Auckland Council, and it was the regional parks. It was a phenomenal percentage of people who put the regional park network at the top of their most valued assets in Auckland, and I think this process has reinforced that view. In fact, Mr. Board Member Wilcox said he travelled around the regional parks over the last summer. By virtue of where I live, I've got a lot of regional parks in very close proximity. And what has really impressed me in recent years is just the huge diversity of people who come to the regional parks now, just all types of ethnicities, all ages. It's a real mixture, and everyone's having fun, everyone's doing stuff. And in some cases, the parks are absolutely chocker. It's a long bay. It's the no vacancy sign has to go up pretty early on in the Christmas holidays because it's fuller, and they keep going up. So I think in the first instance, as much as we're giving out acknowledgements, we need to acknowledge those people who provided those regional parks, and that was the Auckland Regional Authority and its successor, the Auckland Regional Council, that provided the lion's share of those through the 1960s. Some of them through an aggressive acquisition policy, as with Shakespeare, which has been a wonderful benefit to our community, but and to the region, but wasn't quite so beneficial to the poor old Shakespeare family. But we now see the benefits of that policy, and there's certainly been some key figures amongst their own midst, such as former councillor Mike Lee and Chris Fletcher, who played their part when they were in positions of some influence. I do want to also acknowledge Friends of the Regional Park for the wonderful work they do and their role in this submission process. I, like others, kind of look upon them as guardians of our network, the public guardians anyway, and it's just really uplifting to see people really who've had a lifetime commitment to maintaining and improving these regional parks for the benefit of all Aucklanders. So the regional parks are a real and continue to be a real good news story, and I think that's why there were so many submissions. People were absolutely passionate about making sure that they are not compromised in any way. And I think in that respect, I'm certainly very pleased to see that Policy 45 has been removed, and now that it's been removed, perhaps we can release the legal opinion on that, which people are still seeking, and they can perhaps make their own judgment then on what the consequences may have been if it was incorporated into the Hauraki Golf Marine Park as proposed, because some of that advice tells quite a different story from what we have heard. But overall, I think this is a day to be grateful for what we have in our regional park network, to duly acknowledge the people who work in our regional parks, who are amazing people, and also organisations such as the Friends of Regional Park, who continue that legacy of those people from the ARC and ARA who provided so many of Auckland's regional parks today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kia ora, Councillor Watson, totally agree. She'll close it because Councillor Casey won't be speaking to it. So look, I'm just going to sort of add my little sixpence as I always do. And Justine, I just hope you get some of your life back after all this. That also applies to you, Joe, to Matthew, to Scott, to Justine, to Taryn, to Mace, just to all the team, even our regional park wardens, man, I just hope you get some of your life back as a result of this work. You know, as we all know, it's 10 years would be the next one, my understanding is. And so, you know, this will have some changes, but I hope you do get your life back, because this work is an amazing work. I've been, as I said earlier in our agenda, 19 years. Sharon's been around the council a lot longer than myself, but regional parks is always, for us, whether it go down the south at Franklin or whether it's anywhere else in Manukau City Council and way back in the day. So look, I just want to acknowledge you all again, and I want to acknowledge Councillor Fletcher as the portfolio holder around this, and we all wish her all the best in regards to her visit at the moment because of COVID. So look, I'm just going to leave it at that and just say thank you in regards to all the work and for all the people. You know, the Friends of Regional Parks, I tried to get hold of you, Bronwyn, but somehow I just couldn't get hold of you to acknowledge you before we had the agenda. Just to say thank you so much to you and the team for your input with this and all the other people that we had communicated with. So look, I'm going to finish it there, and Councillor Cooper, to you, Councillor Fletcher, to Matua Wilcox, to the independent commissioners. And you know, look, thank you so much for the mahi that you fellas did to end up getting us to this point. So, Councillor Cooper, I'm going to get you to close this particular debate, and just say thank you again to you and the team and our hearing staff. Kia ora.
Ngā mihi kia koe, Mr Chair. Yeah, first of all, I will thank Joe and Tristine, Matthew Ward and Scott De Silva. You've done an extraordinary piece of work. And there are people that kind of say horrible things about bureaucrats, and it goes on rampantly in campaign, you know, election campaigns, very sadly, but I've got nothing but absolute respect and admiration for your cleverness and your diligence and your wisdom. And, you know, you've been extraordinary. Thank you so, so much. I want to thank Councillor Fletcher, and I understand she's unwell and she's not on the call now. She actually gave her thanks in an email. It says, thank you. Where is it? I've got the wrong one. But she actually, in email, thanked all of our staff for the work, and she was very looking forward to this day where she could be here to vote for this. I want to thank James Fetu, Independent Commissioner, and David Hill, Independent Commissioner. As you'll see at attachment 1, David did the writing, because, you know, councillors don't write stuff really. But it was fantastic. I was so relieved that we had an Independent Commissioner that could do that. But he was absolutely diligent. He did all the writing. He just came back to us for feedback. And I think his report fairly represents the kind of arguments put forward, the feedback we heard, and how we came to where we came to on the decisions that we put, recommendations that we put before you. And Stephen Bell too, some of our rangers, but I also want to thank Julie McKee from Hearings and Nick Somerville, who took us through as well. We had days and days of submissions, days and days of deliberation, but it was very enjoyable. But what I really love about this plan is that, you know, we really got to hear what community felt. I'm sorry, I'm turning back here because I kind of want to speak to some of our members of our community that did give submissions. And you'll find bits and pieces that were really important to different parts of our community in this plan. You know, Friends of Regional Park, there are really good bits, and we went, oh, put that in, that's actually really good, that's better. And a lot of the concern from the Waitakere Ranges, because they have their own act for the Waitakere Ranges, and they were very concerned about that. There was things put in there. And one of the questions came up before about co-governance. And I don't know if it's widely known, but the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area provides for co-governance with the Kaurau Amaki and Ngāti Whātua, as well as co-management. And there already is an arrangement for co-management in the Waitakere Ranges with Te Kaurau, which Ngāti Whātua are fine with, and they go, you go ahead and do that. To the conversation around co-governance, we felt that was a wider discussion, not necessarily about this plan, but it was a wider discussion with this council and also in a national context that's happening at the moment, and it wasn't a place that we could decide that. And that's why we talk about it, that it's somewhere else. It's not actually in a particular place, but it's just in the ether at the moment. It's going on nationally, it's going on a lot, and we just felt that that was for another time, because it wasn't just about this plan. And I think Matua Glenn kind of agreed with that, because he also said, well, there's no co-governance with one iwi without the other, because in the Act it says both. So we kind of just said, look, we've got a great relationship with Te Kaurau on the co-management of the ranges. Let's leave it at that, but it's also open for other iwi in the other parks. Not sure if I'm going to leave anything else out, but I think, you know, regional kaupapa is a big conversation. You're never going to please everybody, because as we've heard in the previous item, some views are diametrically opposed. You'll never meet in the middle. But what we've tried to do is balance the natural environment with that real need and desire to get out and be in our parks. And that's so important. But I think one of the themes that Joe put up before was, you know, if you don't look after the natural environment, there isn't anywhere great to go. It's destroyed. So that was heard really loudly in the classifications of destination, and we took destination out because we felt there were some areas you don't want to encourage, you don't want to actively encourage it, but you're not going to stop people at all, but you need to manage it to manage the effects on the environment. So hence we got high use and low use. And we thought that was a better way to look at it, because it's really around the operational management of these areas with the communities who are in that receiving environment as well. So we've seen that in Te Henga, where during COVID, people weren't even supposed to be going anywhere, but they were flocking to the West Coast beaches. It was devastating for the communities, and we just didn't have the resources. It was just really difficult. So some communities like Te Henga, they went, okay, put on the high vis, we'll do the parking, you know, we'll do this, we'll do that. So this is about regional parks working with the local communities and the wider Tamaki me Kaurau community and our iwi. So I feel like we've got to a good landing. The other thing that people were concerned about was the fact that we didn't basically have the principles and just take them and put them in the same place as the last region. There was obviously a lot of love for the last plan, a lot of love. But we have kept those principles, but they're put in basically in the values and general policy chapters. But in particular, the Waitakere community were very concerned. So we put a lot of those in the Waitakere Ranges Regional Park section. So they are there. They're not lost. So I think I've probably said enough, but I just can't thank our staff enough for what they did and my fellow panel. An extraordinary experience. And most of all, the community who came out in their droves, because they really, really care about our environment and our recreation opportunities. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ka pai. So it's been moved and seconded. I will put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried. Can I just get all the staff that have had an input in regards to this to please stand? Taryn, that's you, that's Justine as well, and that's all our wardens. Steve, just want to congratulate you all and say thank you so much, and that includes you, Bronwyn. I mean, this is what Linda just covered. It's just to say thank you from us to you all. Thank you so much. And we've got, don't forget, once we finish here, we're walking to level 3. But, yeah, so look, thank you so much. Just to the committee, this is our last committee of this triennial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give people around this room, because I've asked online, they do not wish to say anything. Some of them have said it to our staff, and that's all I'm suggesting, is that we acknowledge our staff. But before we do that, Mace, can you come up to the front, please? Mace, wherever you are. Oh, is he? Yeah, he's trying to hide. Mace, if you could come up, please. The reason I've asked Mace is that obviously Mace now has a new role. He's in the directorate of Mr. Phil Wilson. And Mace, I want to acknowledge your work. 40 years. 40 years. You obviously started when you were 10. But 40 years, and that 40 years is within the wider parks and rec industry. I want to acknowledge you for that. And then John mentioned with his corridor around the ARC, and I know that 25 years ago, you were also part of the ARC. Now, there have been several things that I know, not only with the ARC, because I used to be the contact at Manukau City Council and went in through to the ARC around transport issues, but also covered off with regional parks as well. And so I remember the fact that you were there, so I want to acknowledge you. The other acknowledgement is also your mahi within Auckland Council, because I know within Auckland Council you were the manager of regional and specialist parks, then the GM for parks, sport and rec. Mace, I know, look, I ended up talking to some of your staff in regards to the mahi you did, and some of them sent me little things. I just want to mention 3 of them, because there were heaps, but there were 3 things that you were part of that is still here sort of continuing. One of them is obviously the Regional Parks Management Plan from 2002. So, you know, that's one in particular. The other one, I think, for me, when I got was the instrumental in the acquisition of over 3,000 hectares of new local and regional parkland. I mean, that's massive. And I think, again, Councillor Watson mentioned the regional parks and how massive it's going. And I think some of the other committee members are saying that we need to put in more. The Sport and Recreation Investment Fund to invest 15 million into the community sport and rec facilities. We saw the fruits of that today with our agenda item. And also the 10, I think they were called Surf 1020 Fund to contribute to the renewal of 10 surf club facilities across Auckland region. There's a few more, Mace, but on behalf of the committee, Independent Māori Statutory Board, I mihi to you, say thank you so much for the work that you have done in the park space. So for me, I just say thank you so much for the work. I'm going to invite you, Mace, if you have anything to sort of say, and then I'm going to allow the committee to acknowledge our staff if they wish. I will then ask the director to say her words in regards to the closing of this committee, and then I will say the last part, and that's it. Kia ora, Mace, just in regards to this, just invite you to say a few words. Kia ora.
Kia ora mātātou, Mr Chairman and members of the committee, Claudia, and everyone who's here. I just, thanks very much for the acknowledgement, but I just wanted to also thank you for your support, because the work of one person is not what gets things done, it's the work of many in terms of how we deliver on things and the way we go about it. And I would really acknowledge you, Mr Chairman, and this committee and the way you've gone about your mahi in this term and previously. So congratulations on a wonderful term, even in difficult circumstances. And I think some of the fruits of your work have come to fruition today. Some of the labours of your work come to fruition today. So thank you for the acknowledgement, and I know that there's some great people who are continuing that work. It's not just about one person, it's about how we work as a team. So I really appreciate your acknowledgement. Kia mai tātou, Mr Chairman.
Thank you, Mace. Kia ora. Thank you. I just want to invite the committee here in the town hall if they wish to say anything to the staff. And look, and then I'll ask Claudia and then I'll finish it off. So I'll go to the left and then come around this way. Kilda.
So the collaborative effort between governance and management is a critical factor in delivering what's been so great for this city over a long history, as you've mentioned, Mr. Chair. And in case I don't get another opportunity, I'd like to recognise you, Councillor Alf, for your firm, strong leadership of this committee and around our council table. You're a person whom I personally admire immensely, and I consider to be a good friend, although we do have the occasional abusive phone call in jest. But we will go running together, and we'll definitely do that triathlon, I'm sure, coming up in the very near future. So I'd like everyone, please, all of you here, to recognise Alf, but also to recognise the work that the Parks Committee has done intergenerationally for this city. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. I mean, I think I acknowledged our staff before. There's so many staff that are involved in this portfolio. Incredible. All wonderful people, responsive, care about our community. They wouldn't work for council because, contrary to popular belief, they don't get top dollar. You'd think everybody thinks they do, but they don't. They do this work because they love it. And actually, they're members of all of our communities. So I just think you're amazing. But Al, for you, I've been on the council with you for the last 9 years, and I just want to acknowledge that you go everywhere. You're out west, you're out south, you're north, you're west, we're everywhere. And I want to thank you for taking your regional job really seriously and meeting with communities. You're always on the end of the phone. You know, I consider you my brother from the south now. And I don't think people realise, because you don't make a big song and dance about stuff. You do things, you get a lot done. You don't shout and scream, you don't vote against everything, you just get stuff done through relationships. And that's really important. And so I think people could model from you, and we get a lot more done here. So ngā mihi atu aroha kia koe.
Yeah, thank you the staff, and thank you the chair and deputy chair, and we're very enjoy, and hopefully the next time come back and the committee will do much better and moving forward for the Tamaki Makaurau. Thank you very much.
Kia ora. Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thanks, Alf, and thanks to the people who've worked on this. Thank you very much, and Scott, maybe you extend the thanks to the people in the field, the unsung heroes who probably, luckily for them, they're never in here, but who are out there doing the work, and who you know, I know the public really appreciate, because every time I interact with them, the people are invariably helpful, and the regional park networks is a tribute to everyone that's involved in terms of the state of them. So please pass that on to the rangers, and if they live in the Albany ward, tell them what I said.
I think it's been said, just the same sentiments as the rest of the team around the table, Alf, but I think it's important to acknowledge that the role of the chair is a significant one, and supported by your deputies. So I do acknowledge the work that you've done over the term there, Alf, so good job. Thank you.
I think it's all been said, really, so thank you very much, but I do want to thank Mace down the back for making sure that Councillor Dick Quacks's memorial happened, because there was a lot of problems there and it looked like it was going to go somewhere different, but thank you very much.
Kia ora, Sharon. Matua.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, people. This committee is all about the parks. It's all about the things that people want to do, and it's one of the more enjoyable parts of council, in that we do these things for community events, and we do these things for the enjoyment of Auckland and it's the work here that's the fruition of a lot of the work that yourselves do. And so, Chair, I'd just like to say thank you for that. Ko te tūmanako ka tae au te haka kapi muri o tō whakakōrero. Akapai.
Mr Chair, sorry, I just realised in my kōrero around the Regional Park Management Plan, I didn't thank Glenn. I meant to, but... Oh, did I? Properly and fully? Oh, that's right then, okay. Phew. I'll be off the Christmas card list. Thank you.
Yeah, it never went. I thought I was going to be good, and then somebody called me Mike. So I put it on. So, Councillor Mulholland, I see on there that you wish to speak, and before you do, Councillor Henderson just wanted to acknowledge all our staff, and he's done that online. So that's from Councillor Henderson. So, Councillor Mulholland, and also from Councillor Casey. Yeah, kia ora.
Kia ora. I know I haven't spoken up much in this, but I do want to acknowledge staff, but I do want to acknowledge staff in the way that they respond to the public, because it is, after all, residents and ratepayers, our community, who fund us to do this great work, or the team, and we are elected to represent them. So, Alf, I just want to take a brief moment to actually thank you. I know when I was at Council at Manukau, we worked together, and I want to thank you for, even though I may have differing views on behalf of my community sometimes, you are one of the few councillors, in my view, who has never been aggressive towards me or rude. You've listened, you've been fair and reasonable, and that has made my journey in working alongside you for our people, because that's what it's about, one of the better committees and things that I enjoy about this job. So I want to acknowledge you for being open and listening and sharing with me. It takes a good man and an honest man to do that. So thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Tracy. I'm just going to hand it over to Claudia, and then I'm just going to, once this finishes, just say what I need to do is acknowledge the PACE team plus this committee, and then we'll close our meeting and go to level 3. So, kia ora, Claudia.
Kia ora, Alf, and kia ora koutou katoa. I know that I don't usually speak a lot in these committees, so I really value the opportunity to say something now. So, as the Director of Customer and Community Services, it's been an absolute honour and privilege to work with this committee. You, Alf, as Chair, and Kathy as Deputy Chair, and of course all of our elected members, Mr Mayor, who's not here, but hopefully he's online, and our members of the IMSB. Tēnā te mihi nui kia koutou katoa. We're incredibly grateful for everyone's extraordinary advocacy, advice, your debate, and your huge passion for our communities. And I'm personally deeply grateful for all of your support, not only for myself personally, but for all of our teams. And I know, Alf, you have just done an incredible job behind the scenes to support the people who do the mahi, to bring all of the papers and advice to this committee, but also in their extremely dedicated analysis that they do to provide the best advice possible. We're also extremely grateful for the amount of support given during the pandemic that we've just had over the last 2.5 years. It's been a very, very difficult time for our teams, and I know it's been a very difficult time for our communities. It's been highly unusual, very disruptive, and it's caused our community significant disruption and often hardship. It's required by this committee and many other committees extreme adaptability, but I know that many of our elected members, in fact, all of our elected members have been out with our communities, supporting our communities during these times, as you have been supporting us. And for this, we are extremely grateful. And despite the pandemic, I would like to tautoko the incredible, momentous success of the PACE Committee and its significant work program, which could have not occurred without so many wonderful people on our teams, and of course, all of the support of our chair, who has got to be one of the most incredible chairpersons I've ever worked with, our deputy chair and so many others. And I'm not allowed to be biased, but I will allow myself just in this moment to have a little bit of leeway to say it's probably my most favourite committee, and I have absolutely loved working on it. So for those elected members who are not seeking a further term, we thank you and we wish you all the very best for your next exciting adventure ahead. For those of you who are seeking another term, we wish you all the very best for the next few months and, of course, the next term. I would like to thank Maya, who's unfortunately not here today. We are thinking of you, Maya. And, of course, I'd like to thank all of the wonderful team members behind me as well, who make this committee work. They are the machinery that keeps this going. And thanks to them, this committee functions so smoothly and so well. I would like to thank our directorate. We have over 3,100 wonderful team members in Kaimahi. And of course, we work really closely with other directorates, including our wonderful colleagues in Community and Social Policy and Governance, who help this council operate and run. And finally, a huge thank you to our communities, to whom we serve or whom we serve. We are part of these communities, and I know our communities matter deeply to all of us. And we hope that you can see that in the mahi that we do every single day. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā koutou katoa. And before I end, if I may ask my colleagues to turn your mics on if you have one, and to etu, so we can sing to this committee a waiata. Kia ora. We will be singing Te Aroha. We're singing to you.
We'll sing to everybody.
Te aroha, te whakapono, me te rangi mari e, tātou tātou e. Te aroha, te whakapono, me te rangi mari e, tātou tātou e. Kia ora.
I just very shortly just want to acknowledge the staff. I just want to go through very quickly because it's nearly 6 o'clock and like I said, at least it's just the hour. But look, I want to thank the PACE team. Oh, Claudia, you? Everybody but the PACE team. I just want to thank the PACE team because this is the last committee of this triennial term. So I want to thank the PACE team. Miriam, to you, to Justin, to Jason, to Sarah, to Priscilla, to Michael Bain, to Peju, to Isabel. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for all the work that we've done over 3 years. I'm going to save the few people that I will save last. To our governance advisors, Sonia, Sandra today, but also people that have been part of this committee. I want to say thank you. Also for all the elected members, and Claudia just covered it, for those that are not standing, I wish you all the best on your journey And Phelan, again, I acknowledge you, and also Lisa from today, because she's not standing as well. So I want to thank you. To Meredith Webb. Meredith, I just want to say thank you so much for all the phone calls and everything else when things got a bit dicey. And so all I had to do was just give you a call. So to Meredith, my apologies about always ringing you. Samantha, before you was Koro, after that was Maureen. Samantha, I just need to say to you personally, thank you so much, because you've made not only the committee but the decisions that you have made and everything else is why we have 99% of our work program completed. That's why. So I want to acknowledge you in regards to that. My last second to last is Maya. Maya, thank you. Thank you, and I know that you're on a journey now. We give you all our love, and just want to say thank you so much. You've been a sidekick. I was going to use Tonto and who's the other fellow? Lone Ranger, but I thought I better not. But it's like, yeah, it's just two of us are sort of joined at the hip. So Maya, thank you. Thank you so much in regards to it. And my last comment is to the sister that we never had. Well, I never had anyway. We had 5 other brothers. Kathy, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being there right through the 12 years when we got on in 2010. I just want to mihi to you all the best. Say hello to the brother and enjoy whangare when you get up there. So look, everybody, thank you so much. My bro, can you turn the camera off, please? We're finished. The committee is now closed.